Right. Okay. So I know we are live, so we're just setting things up and stuff. But hey, welcome to our unfiltered chat with Blockchain DXB, aka R.A. George, and I'm your host for the most of the time here inside Dubai, representing Society X, and of course our great friends from New York City, the Big Apple, Ort Foundation. AI plus blockchain equals trustworthy AI. So that being said, man, we have a lot to cover. Unfiltered conversations, the weekly conversation on crypto, blockchain, and AI. So that being said, George, let's get this episode started.
Yeah, and I think, later on we have a guest joining in as well. I think Isandro is working something on AI agents, so it's going to be really interesting to hear him on board as well. And let's see what he has to say. Now, let's kickstart by talking about what did actually happen last weekend, Marcus. This is pretty much around the same time, or rather a day before, when the CEO of Telegram got arrested. So what happened, I believe this was on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, last weekend, and on the 23rd of August. Now, Federal Chair Jerome Powell, he did actually, not an official announcement, but he did actually state that in the next FOMC meeting, which is scheduled to take place on the 18th of September, he's going to reduce the interest rate by 25 basis points. Now, that is definitely positive news for the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And because of that, Marcus, the prices of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies did actually pump up. And people were kind of happy and excited that, hopefully this is a sign of a bullish run, because he did actually state that there might be few further rate cuts this particular year. Now, with US election coming up, I really am curious to check, what kind of an impact it has, let's say, so far as the price not only of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but also of the global market, because if I'm not mistaken, gold has reached a new all-time high as well, isn't it? So it's going to be really interesting.
Oh, I forgot to check that really? Oh, man. I mean, no, but lately, these last couple of months, I mean, the half of this year, right? Gold has done pretty well. I mean, if you compare it to Bitcoin or any other assets, it has been doing pretty well. And also, I just want to add that in relation to one of my previous guests on Society X, Aaron Day. So he's the one who's supporting Roger Ver, and also he has his own book called The Final Countdown, which is all about CBDCs. There is this thing called the kind of like it's just like money. It's like paper money, but it's actually made of gold. So it is quite interesting to see some unique innovations in the gold space using this actual gold, this flexible gold thing, as a way to make payments in the United States, and is accepted by many merchants in New Hampshire, many other places. So it is quite interesting to see that timing where gold prices are going up. They're seeing, this flow from, other like stocks or whatever into gold. I know it's quite interesting, and seeing new technologies in the gold space. I mean, it's even better than even Bitcoin too in a relative aspect, I guess. But still, then I'm like, wow, okay, this is interesting. So, man, definitely something to look out to. So, I hope to get Aaron maybe on our live stream. He can definitely. I want him to actually do a kind of like a show and tell. So that way, like, hey, this is proof. We're not bullshitting. We're not just making, just kind of make news for the sake of it. There's actual content, actual real stuff happening on the ground. So, anyways, please, sorry, go ahead. I just got excited about that.
No, I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on, because even Tether USDT, the issuers of stablecoin, they have Tether Gold as well, isn't it? So they have working on gold as well. And I'm pretty much sure Peter Schiff will be going crazy on Twitter as well. But let's talk about briefly any update you have regarding the CEO of Telegram, that is Powell Durov. Now, for our listeners, we should know that we already have a standalone episode. You can check it on Markuse's LinkedIn profile, or even on the Blockchain DXB podcast via Spotify. We talked about privacy, politics.
Actually, check on the Blockchain DXB's podcast. That's the best place, because I also want people to know not only just the Telegram news, but also some really interesting coverage from George himself. My LinkedIn profile is just a collage of my nerdiness, and I just basically show off stuff. So you don't need to see that. You need, if you want actual news, go to the Blockchain DXB podcast, right? That's where the people need to go.
And do we have any update, Markose, ever since the announcement of the arrest of Telegram or CEO?
Well, okay. So in terms of news, the UAE mission in France has demanded for the UAE delegation or the officials to meet with Powell because he is an Emirati citizen, and also according to Kim.com, right, the founder of Mega Upload. Again, he's also dealing with investigations, and from the United States, I guess the Five Eyes. So Powell is a good friend of Sheikh Hamdan. So this is really so obviously, and also UAE has also cancelled $80 billion order of Rafale fighter jets. So that's interesting update. And also right now, I think Powell is released, but he will have to face the judge, to face the accusations, allegations. There's also this thing about he has a mistress in Switzerland where he has like 4 kids and stuff, which is fine. But again, this has this Julian Assange-esque memory where there are certain ladies, certain people, I would say, or entities, actually, to be honest, who are accusing him of sexual assault and all that stuff. So again, a lot of people on Twitter and the other spaces as well, they're like, hold on, wait a minute, we've seen this narrative before, so it is raising. It's not really helping the West. It's not helping the Western media or especially many of the governments trying to accuse him for all this stuff. I mean, like, it's happening in real time. So I don't know. Either they think that we don't have brain cells or something or whatever, but I think it's just causing confusion, but also it's backfiring on them too. So anyway, that's the update on Powell Durrell.
I do agree, Marcus, with what you're saying, but some people do actually fall for it because apparently there's some rumor going on. And I found out this thing via WhatsApp group. One of the guy actually said that apparently Paul Darrow had 100 children. The other guy was saying, no, it's not 100, it is 1,000 children. So people, are actually arguing about the number of children that they have. And 1,000 children is like, he might be a super macho man.
Well, actually, the story is one of his. I think someone in his team or something. The story is that like he donated his sperm, because I think either some of his close friends or whatever. Like it is a strange request, but think of the couple. They unfortunately many men are experiencing like infertility. So which is, it's not easy for men to talk about it, but that's something the guy struggled and, he wants to have children and stuff, to be a father and stuff. So, some men have these goals and it was a very strange request, but, Powell said, sure, you know what, like I will donate my sperm. And, it's supposed to be one person, but they ended up his sperm being used like, to support other women who want to have children and stuff. So that's why, 100 could be correct, and potentially 1,000 also could be correct too. So I know Elon Musk has also commented on that and congratulated him because Elon Musk believes that there is going to be a population collapse. True. So, which is interesting. I mean, this goes against all the ESG, the greeny, should I use the word fucked out, I guess, or whatever, like thinking we need to, like, I don't know, cull the planet or cull the trees, I don't know, like, just, I don't know, the dystopian shit, but I don't know, that's my unfiltered thoughts.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is that, there is a bail which is set out for $5.56 million and he has to report to the French police station at least twice a week. But unfortunately, because of his news, Torn applications that were built on Torn blockchain did actually go down. But what is even worse, Marcus, is that the Torn blockchain, taking inspiration from Solana blockchain, which has gone down. So the reason why the Torn blockchain did actually go down is because of a token launch, which did actually happen on Monday. And apparently it looks like there was airdrops for 10 million users via the mini Telegram app, and that has caused congestion, which is definitely not good, not just for Tron blockchain, but when you talk about, let's say, blockchain protocol, and if I'm not mistaken, Marcus, roughly around 2 months ago, we talked about a centralized system which did go completely belly up and it stopped working. And people are saying that, now it's the time for blockchain to shine. But look, when such cases happen, when blockchains do actually stop producing block, that is definitely not good, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know about the congestion thing, but there have been a lot of, I guess, speculation. Again, folks, we are speculating. So, because again, there's the concern about privacy, which, guys like Vitalik Buterin, Edward Snowden, the Monero community, Zcash community, and Zuko, and also I have to also acknowledge Naomi Brockwell from NBTV, have stated that, there are some privacy concerns with Telegram. Yes, they do have encryption, but the problem is that it's not open source, and it is, again, the privacy is kind of squishy. So I guess when it comes to the Tron blockchain, I would also have to say that I know a lot of people have speculated it's not okay. Yeah, they have many validators or something, but the problem is that it's not really that decentralized. So there. So again, I'll say we're getting the news from maybe people who have a different point of view, or they could be Tron detractors or whatever. Again, This is speculation, but this is a legitimate concern because Tron has gained a lot of attention, and obviously I'm kind of fine with some sort of certain centralization because because there has to be some sort of balance to get things to move and all that stuff. But I think there are I do believe there are some creative ways, there are some unique ways to maintain privacy, decentralization, and have more stakeholders in Tron. So I think that this is where I think a lot of people speculate that only a small group of people, including Powell, which is also kind of known, he has a lot of Tron. So similar to BNB, right? Yeah. CZ has a lot of BNBs. So it's kind of expected. Totally understand. So I'm okay with it.
Regarding privacy, the only thing what I can recommend our listeners to do is, I'm pretty much sure that everyone uses WhatsApp now, isn't it? So if you actually go to WhatsApp, and let's say, Marcus, if you and I are connected in WhatsApp, what we can do is you can go to the other person's contact on your WhatsApp and just click on encryption, and it shows you the 60-digit number. So what our listeners can do is, let's say with your friend, you can just click on his name on your WhatsApp, then go to the profile and just click on encryption, and it does actually show you a long 60-digit number. You can compare it with the other person, and if both the number matches, that means, it's encrypted. That means the transaction is only between you and the other person. What I can think of it is that 60-digit number is what the government wanted the backdoor access to. I mean, Telegram doesn't work that way, but let's say for WhatsApp.
Yeah. Right.
If the government wants a 60-digit number, that's when the government can go and infiltrate into our accounts and read through our private messages. But yeah, let's see what the future of Tron blockchain is. But one of the biggest news that I wanted to touch base, Marcus, this week was that of the king of DeFi, or rather the boomer DeFi callers, MakerDAO. They are deciding to rebrand it to Sky. Yeah, it's called as Boomer DeFi, isn't it? Because I remember it was the first DeFi project that made decentralized finance famous.
Yeah.
But they have rebranded to Sky. I kind of like the name. And the website where people can check it is sky.money. And they are going to be launching on the 18th of September. But one thing which I did not like, Markose, is that the founder, that is Christian Runson, he did actually state that it's going to be restricted in United Kingdom, few other countries, and United States of America as well. Now, from a CEO and founder's point of view, I can understand why he's saying that, because he does not want regulators to go after them, which makes perfect sense. But when you talk about open blockchain, you're restricting it to certain countries and certain places, isn't it? Now, when you talk about Bitcoin, it is borderless. Absolutely anywhere in the world can use it. You can make an argument that the wallet will not be available in certain countries. But so far Sky.money is concerned, the protocol will not be available in few countries. And just to touch base on some bits and pieces of information, they will be launching a stablecoin called as USDS, as well as Sky Governance Token. So for fanboys of MakerDAO, which I think are relatively less now, they used to have a token called as MKR token. So one MKR token will be 24,000 Sky tokens, so on and so forth. And the DAI tokens in MKR will still be there right now. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting project because look, Marcus, I always look at the numbers of DeFi on a daily basis.
Right.
Of all the metrics, let's say be it cryptocurrency, the prices of stablecoin, one metric which I absolutely do not like is the volume of DeFi. It is absolutely back to worse. Could it be possible that Sky.money changes the entire narrative of DeFi, gets more users on board? Because one of the biggest challenges of so-called Web3 and decentralized finance is the user experience, isn't it? How they are going to solve it, I really am not sure. Because technically speaking, and even legally speaking, in a distributed or decentralized world, you should not be in a position to go and have customer service. And if you actually go to the website, Markose, Sky.money, it connects you to a wallet. And after that, there's also terms and conditions. I don't understand the terms and conditions is with whom? Is it with the user with Sky.money? If that is the case, it is a centralized project and protocol, isn't it? So I really am not able to understand who are they having the terms and conditions with. Do you have any terms and conditions, Marcus, when you use Bitcoin? Or even when you use, let's say, MetaMask? The answer to that is no, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm unable to understand, who are they having their terms and conditions with. So on the right side, it says, connect your wallet. Hopefully you don't do that while sharing the screen. But after that, it asks you to, go and read through if you actually click, I think it says you have to go and read through the terms and conditions. So it opens up a page only after you accept it. Yeah. So this terms and condition is with the user with Sky-based international terms of use, isn't it? Which I'm not sure the regulators will be liking this, especially when you talk about it being built on a DeFi or decentralized finance world. You can't be partially decentralized or partially distributed. You have to be 100%, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the previous MakerDAO, there was none of these things. But nonetheless, I'm hoping that, it does turn out to be a game changer because DeFi is something which is needed, and what better project to do it than the Boomer DAO or the kings of DeFi, that is MakerDAO. And what our listeners can do is, the CEO or the co-founder of MakerDAO and Sky, he has put out a video on Twitter or X. I did find it to be extremely cheesy. It looks like the video is done on a budget. So, he explains 7 minutes what is MakerDAO, the reason to transition to Sky. It's going to be really interesting to see. Now, I remember roughly around last year in October or something, he did write a blog called as Endgame, and he did talk about, MakerDAO transitioning from Ethereum to Solana. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they're actually working on Solana blockchain and not on Ethereum, or are they still going to be working on both the protocols?
Strange.
Yeah. Now, before Andre comes up, Marcus, I was thinking about discussing one more news that is connected to India. Because since this week, or since last week to be precise, I'm seeing quite a lot of news from India. Most of them have been negative, but one or two have been positive as well. Now, we talked about Vasi-Rex Exchange, which had a massive hack of $250 million, but there is a video by the Reserve Bank of India that is digital public infrastructure. Now, for our international audience, you should know that the Reserve Bank of India is kind of similar to the central bank. Now, the Reserve Bank of India, they are not fans of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but the Supreme Court, they are okay with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And the Reserve Bank of India is not politically motivated. But I'm sure, knowing the notorious history of Indian politicians, they are kind of being pushed to force some ideologies, especially so far as cryptocurrency and blockchain is concerned. I'm not sure as to which political sides are in favor or not in favor of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but there is something called as digital payment infrastructure, Markers. And India already has 5 million central bank digital currency users. Is it something that we should be celebrating, or is it something that we should not be celebrating? What do you think? We know the answer to that, isn't it?
First off, I think it's haram, first of all. Just keep on. Okay, no, to me, this is not a win. Again, I just want to make sure people know that, like, I do not support CBDCs. Because just like in our history, we have celebrated and honored the people who have separated the church and the state. I am a firm believer that we have to separate money and the state. So, similar to the words of Eric Voorhees, I think, he has given a beautiful speech, when he was honored. I forgot, it was with, I forgot, the Crypto Council, I guess. It was in Washington, D.C. So, I know, it's been a couple of months, but I don't know. So, for various reasons. So this is where, like, I would love to bring guys like Roger Ver, especially Aaron Day. I know he has dived into CBDCs way deeply, especially with the connections with some of the Bitcoin developers, especially the Project Hamilton, the Regulated Liability Network. So, they're the guys. Those are guys I actually would love for them to cover deep on this and also educate people. Which Aaron right now is having workshops all over the United States. So, from my side, look, I support this. I wish people in India would open their eyes to the bigger picture, like why this CBDC approach coming from the government is not really a good idea, because especially with the political instability and the fragmented religious groups and stuff, it's not something you want some of these leaders or whatever to have power or have their hands on. The same.
100%, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And he also talked about, digital identity as well. The only thing that I found it interesting, Markose, he actually used the word interoperability at least 5 to 7 times, maybe even 10 times. So he was talking about, interoperability prior to him talking about central bank digital currency. So I think, listeners should definitely check it out. He also touched on, now the other news I wanted to touch base regarding India was that they are planning to regulate cryptocurrency, and the government is actually drawing up a consultation paper. So let's say if there are some builders in the space, someone who's, let's say, trying to build something, be it, let's say, privacy or anything connected to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, somewhere between September or October is when the government is going to be putting out a consultation paper. And this is where we come in. If we do have any feedback, we should voice our opinion through the right channel. And historically, I think, these consultation papers, whatever people say, they definitely take it on board. So, anyone has any feedback or suggestion, something similar to what the Abu Dhabi Global Markets or the FSRA from Abu Dhabi Global Market has done. So they have also released a consultation paper, and people can go ahead and chime into that. So India working on central bank digital currency is definitely a big no for me as well. But regarding the digital public infrastructure, Markose, and this is something you might like because you're getting into the artificial intelligence space as well, the DPI will be merging with artificial intelligence too. So I'm not sure what are the use cases that they're working on yet.
Yeah. But before we dive into, deepen in AI, we do have Andre Pemmelaar. I know I might have pushed it already, so he's joining us right now here in Sunnyside Dubai. Welcome to our Unfiltered chat, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, guys. Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. Love the show, by the way. I've caught it a few times, and Markose, we know each other from Tech Tuesday, so I've caught it a few times.
Yeah.
What really got me interested was last Tuesday when you guys were talking about identity. So there's so much happening in that space. So thanks, guys, for having me. Really appreciate it. I want to get into everything I'm doing, but CBDCs. Man, can I just comment a little bit on that?
We love a good commentary.
Yeah. So let's talk bigger picture, right? Just so everybody really understands, CBDCs are just fiat currency on chain, right? But there's a little bit more to it than that. it's much more trackable. That's probably the most important thing about it. And because privacy is going to be an issue, all of the CBDCs that come out, at least the ones that are well designed, they try to some way obfuscate what the transactions are, but allow the government to view them, right? So, they are inevitable. Here's my take on it. I think that they are inevitable, that the rise of CBDCs is going to happen, but users are going to have to vote with their wallets and where they put their money, right? So we may not have a choice but to use a CBDC. So if one appeared here in the UAE in the form of a dirham CBDC, it wouldn't really bother me. It's just another way. And if it was a convenient way for me to move at a low rate between USDC or USDT or some other stable coin, I'm okay with it. What I don't like is, that it potentially allows much more control over the individual. And I think in areas where you have strong governance, like the UAE, I mean, this is my personal opinion, but the UAE is a very well-run country, right? And as far as I know, they do a very good job of balancing out the greater common good and freedom of the individual. So as a resident here, I'm not worried about it, but I can imagine that as it appears in certain nation states, that it could become very problematic. And I think what Bitcoin and all the early successful L1s, Ethereum, etc., have done is they have succeeded in a way in creating a bulwark against that dystopian world, right? Because Bitcoin has made it impossible for one single CBDC fiat currency to come to dominate, unless they were somehow able to get rid of it, which I think at this point is implausible. And so by doing that, even if these things rise, Bitcoin, we're talking about becoming part of sovereign treasuries at this point, right? Trump's big announcement sometime back.
Yeah.
So I think it's inevitable. The rise is inevitable, but I think that the crypto world has already created the necessary bulwarks against it. And, I don't want to say humanity doesn't have anything to worry about. Let's all stay a little bit vigilant. But I think because of what they have done, we have avoided a very bad scenario.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, I'm pretty much sure everyone who is an advocate of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, they definitely do not like central bank digital currency. The only thing I can think of is once central bank digital currency goes mainstream, what happens to stable coin? I'm pretty much sure it will exist. But, the choice, should we use a stable coin or should we use a CBDC? That is, what individuals will have to make. And what you said is absolutely spot on, Andrew.
USDT, let's just briefly talk about USDT and USDC. If the US creates its own CBDC, then that will represent such a colossal shift, right? It's kind of, it's a way of preempting the mass use of free stable coins. Well, not free, but USDC, USDT, right? But prior to that, if smaller nation states like the UAE or any state out there, even if it's a state that has some issues, as long as it allows for the conversion back and forth, I think it's okay. Now, you guys were speaking, I believe, about India. India has had a history of strong currency controls, and it remains to be seen whether this now you create
pretty strong capital controls. Yeah.
Right. So you create a CBDC, you force everybody to use it, and now you put programmatically guards against it being turned into other currencies. Like, could it work? Yeah, technically it certainly could work. Would it cause a stampede? I mean, I think because you have alternatives, people would continually try to accumulate the free currencies, right? And that's gets back to the bigger point that we have an alternative.
Yeah. No, rightly said. Because I just want to add, because like a couple of weeks, George, he did some pretty good research on Enbridge. So I know we were talking about India, they're having their CBDC thing, but Enbridge, which is I guess Saudi UAE led program, but also connected to other BRIC nations as well too. So it is sort of like, challenging the narrative of the SWIFT system. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays, because obviously, like the dynamics within the SWIFT is totally different than the dynamics within, the BRIC nations, because they're culturally different and stuff. The only thing that is really connecting them is that they want to have your own payment system. So how they're going to do it and how they handle capital controls and stuff, it's going to be quite challenging. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah. Swift is, what is it, 50 years old? Something around there, right? It is a really old protocol. And it's just because it's so entrenched that we continue to use it. But, I would rather pay for absolutely everything. And I think a huge amount of the growth we've seen in both USDT and USDC, I used to really deep dives into these, is all because of commercial trade. So it used to be, it was all about the inter-exchange settlement and arbitrage. More and more, it's commercial trade, right? So I think, Swift is looking at its own thing, but it's inevitable that cross-currency payments, at least commercial trade ones, are going to go, 100, maybe not 100%, but a lot of it's going to happen on chain. I expect those markets, the stablecoin markets, to over the next year to probably double their transactions. There is so much happening in commercial trade. Here in Dubai, there are, speaking of Indians, I happen to know of guys who run companies here who pay their employees, pay their suppliers back in India in stable coins, and they run their whole business, and they don't use any currency exchanges in India, right? So, it's already happening. I know the same thing going on in Africa.
Oh, Africa, definitely that's happening a lot, because there's, again, other than India, you also, like many countries in Africa, they have so many, capital control measures. A lot of the entrepreneurs from those nations are moving to Dubai or the United States for, entrepreneurial opportunities. So, definitely we're seeing a lot of, stablecoin use and stuff. So, but George, please go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on, and it's going to be really interesting to see, how the stablecoin narrative as well as central bank digital currency narrative turns out to be. But let's talk about, artificial intelligence, Andrew. I'm really curious to check. What is it that you're building?
Wow. Let me just start with a big wow statement. Let me just get the big wow, because I know most people understand. Most people have been using things like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, things like this, frontier models. But the next wave is just insane. Like, most people really don't see what's coming at all, right? And, a friend of mine, David Ha, put out a paper. He has his own firm out of Tokyo called Sakana.ai. They just put out a AI researcher of AI. And this has been a theme of his for over. So what this thing does is it uses similar things to actually the tech I'm using, but it uses an ability to plan out research paths and then go and test them. And when it finds something that works, it writes a paper that can pass, scientific review, right? So what is that? That is AI improving AI. So when you see an exponential curve, but now the curve itself is fortifying the ascent, the growth of that curve, we are, talking about magnitudes of increase in power. And I think the only limiting thing, and, Markose, your org, the only limiting thing we have here is electricity and computation.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So the big wow there is just what's coming down the line. So let me give people a little bit of background before I go into what I'm doing. Just what is really the next thing, right? So right now, if you use ChatGPT or any of the other chats or any main apps out there, what you get is I do something, it reacts. I do something, it reacts. But what is already appearing all over the place are what are called agentic flows. And what agentic flows do, and there's a great paper out about this, is they take one model, could easily be an LLM. So I'll give you, there's packets out there that can write you an entire app, and it's an entire software team. It's got a product manager and a CEO, and these are all models. And what they do is, for example, what an agentic flow can do is, let me propose a path of activity to do something, right? This is task planning. Another LLM can then evaluate that and say, this is okay, but it could be improved this way, and you, by the way, if you want to supercharge this, and there's, maybe I'll send you some links you can put into the post afterwards. There's been a lot of research where let's say you ask, and I do this all the time, by the way, I ask Claude to write me a role prompt for what I want to do. And then I throw it over intentionally to ChatGPT and ask it, how it thinks this role will perform for the same task. Between the two of them, there's a big improvement in the role. And you can do that again and again all the way along. So but if that happens with agents, that's what agents can do, right? So it's like, here makes one decision, then another one evaluates that, then it comes back and it does it again. And at some point you have okay, we're done with this. Let's move on to the next. And all of that happens in the background. So
that's powerful.
And here, there's a paper that came out that showed how with agentic flows, actually there's a talk by Andrew Ning, who's like one of the fathers of Coursera, but also machine learning. And he goes on to show how you can achieve ChatGPT 4 performance, 4.0 performance, or 4.0 performance with an earlier version. I think it's ChatGPT 3.5, just by using agentic flows, just by having it self-correct. Now, can you imagine you have it self-correct, plus it's also going to be improving, improving itself. This is what's coming down the line. So agentic flows are, I want to say they're the next big thing, but they're not. They're all the current big thing, So getting into a little bit about what we're doing. Actually, maybe let me pause there and, give you guys either a chance to comment or to ask anything you want to ask about this.
No. See, from my end, I just want to say that definitely there's going to be I would like to call it like kind of like an agentic revolution, because I'll say, Andre, like I don't think normally people are grasping this idea yet. They keep hearing agent AI solutions and stuff. Because I know at OP we have done for like companies, their customer service stuff, but I was just kind of like sharing this idea with George, this idea of a kind of like a podcast network, like supporting other podcasters, help them, grow their influence, like focus on creating stuff. We will work on the back end, and we're trying to, it's more like a fun exercise. So can you imagine, like we create our own agents, like one for social, one for like creating newsletters, another one for cross promotion, I don't know, something, right? So
there's already YouTube videos out there to just here's how you can do a third party no code tool and take your YouTube video and turn it into a LinkedIn post, into a Twitter thread, into all of it, and it just does it automatically, and it does it pretty well, right? So there's a lot coming in there. But let me move on to a little bit about what we're doing with Agentic, because it's very much a blockchain focused project. It was very much ultimately a decentralized project. When I say decentralized, I mean that ultimately what I want is this thing to completely run on its own. I think one of you guys made the point, maybe it was you, George, you made the point that you are either decentralized or you're not.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's very true. And even from the regulator's point of view, particularly, U.S. regulators, are you truly decentralized? If everybody who made this thing is not in any way involved, does it still run? Right? That's kind of, for me, the ultimate decentralized protocol. And that's true of any of the big protocols, right? Obviously, we have to have validators, we have to have people participating, but any one of them could go out. So a little bit, what we are developing is a blockchain secured, personalized AI agent, because it's my belief that you should own your own identity. Now, there's a lot to unpack in there about what that really means. But let's relate it, first of all, to the crypto universe, right? There have been a number of different identity solutions out there. WorldCoin is probably one of the better known ones. What all of these attempt to do is to provide some sort of on-chain identity, which verifies that you are a single biological entity. In some cases, they go so far as to include the personal information, KYC information, that kind of backs it up. What they have all faced is the chicken and egg problem that without wide acceptance, nobody wants to use it. And without anybody using it, without it having any utility, I can't go use it to sign up to Binance or to OKX or to any of the other ones. It hasn't really proved very useful. And so then you don't have any users. A classic chicken and egg. WorldCoin tried to pay people and they got really criticized. I had a look at this about 2-3 days ago. WorldCoin's biggest user base is in Kenya, and they described it as like they described it as they're very crypto pro and all that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is that the sign up bonuses were much more meaningful in that economy. Right? When you get paid like $50, I don't know what it was, $100 to sign up, that can be a much more meaningful thing. And they got criticized for targeting the vulnerable, right? So, and in the end, those aren't the ideal clients of most, crypto exchanges. So our thinking is completely the opposite. Yes, it needs to function as a basic identity tool, but that's not what we're building. What we're building is your identity vector. Think of that as your 360 identity. So a good way to kind of conceptualize it is, your DNA has about, I think it's 6 billion pairs, of which 0.001% roughly, I mean, we don't all know exactly, but roughly at 1/10,000 is actually your unique human DNA, like what makes you, right? And all the rest of it is very sort of, base level stuff. And by the way, that's about a second of Netflix video. That's your whole DNA. What we're building is your identity vector. It's that unique you. So it's your visual identity. It's your voice. Of course, it includes personal information, but it learns about you and stores whatever it learns, both in this identity vector and an encrypted knowledge tree. So it learns, literally it learns you, right? And what that gets connected to is what I was talking about before, these agentic networks. So I'll give you a very interesting use case we could do as a POC is because it is an agent, it will learn all about you. And, we were talking about the DeFi hurdle here, right, earlier. How do we overcome the difficulty for most people, right? Well, if this thing can walk you through it, you're interested in DeFi. Okay. What are you interested in doing? Oh, well, it tells you that, it asks you a simple question like, are you ready to go? Do you have any crypto? No, I don't even have any crypto. Oh, well, maybe I'm in Europe or, wherever it may be. If you're in Europe, oh, well, you probably need to sign up to a Kraken account because they may have the best on-ramps. I'm not saying they do, but, obviously it could search a bit more. But what the agent is capable of there is it's capable of task planning. So it can figure out, okay, so if you want to start buying crypto in the DeFi universe, you have to own some form of stablecoin. How do you get there? And once it plans it out, then it can begin search. And by the way, we don't need to develop all these tools because the open source world has just, the amount of high quality open source out there is just skyrocketed. And third party services, Complexity has an AI API that we can connect to. So we can just throw it out there and it comes back with very high quality search results, which then the agent can evaluate and move on. So it could figure out, okay, your first task is to just acquire some basic stable coin. Okay. Well, it comes back, you wake up the next morning and here's your suggestions. Now it can't onboard you to Kraken because it's going to have a liveness check and all those things, but it could help you fill out the form for sure. And once you're on, then it can direct you, what do you want to buy? And once you bought some things, then it can start monitoring them, right? And so one of the key aspects that I keep emphasizing here is that it's your data, it's your AI, and it's under your control. So it's your second you, it's your number two, right? And what it will do is to look out for you, to for example, overnight, one of the basic premises we have is that you wake up each morning with something meaningful that it has found for you overnight. So if you're suddenly into crypto, it starts watching what you're looking at. It starts looking around. Is there any serious news coming out? Oh, if you're interested in AI coins, well, this seems to be growing in trend. It draws your attention to it. If you're not interested, you're not interested. But if you show interest, then it can begin to explore that more. Right. So, I'll give you another very common use case. And I think this may be one of our two POCs to start with is health. So I am trying to get into better health. And when I say health, I mean health span, right? The whole 360 of health span, right? Physically feel better, extend my longevity, improve my cognitive functions, decrease my fat, increase my lean muscle, all these things, right? And Markose, you're a runner, right? So you understand.
Used to be. Now I have like muscle injuries and stuff.
Now you're a lazy couch potato like the rest of us, but used to be.
Used to be,
yeah. So here's the thing. I mean, this is literally my life, right? So I've got my watch on, although I'll probably be getting a Whoop, and I can look at that data. I can separately look at my sleep data. I can look at my supplements and what am I buying. And one day, I swear to you, 4 days ago, I'm like looking at these things and I'm like, Jesus, every bloody one of these things has zinc. How much zinc am I taking? And so, I'm taking something to improve my free testosterone. I'm taking a multivitamin. I look at the thing. I'm like 3x over the amount of way over the amount of zinc. My body's just losing zinc to the world, every day. And so I threw these all in and then I did some research on them. Like, where are my dosages? And what I found was that though it had what I wanted, right, it had it in too low a dose to be effective. So here I am, this supplement that looks great on the package, but actually when you go and dig into it, you discover that it's way too low to have any efficacy in the area I want. Meanwhile, it's one of many contributing zinc, So what does that tell you? Well, first of all, if you could just take photos of, and that's exactly what I did, take photos of what you're taking, it would look at that all and understand, okay, this is all it is, right? And, you're taking too much of this, probably if your goal is that, you can, take more of that. And really, it begins to build a 360 picture of everything about you. And so every morning, waking up to something important that says, hey, I've noticed that you're not, you probably didn't get enough exercise yesterday, 2 days in a row. I can see that your heart rate variability is high or low. If it's low, hey, just stay in bed because clearly you're in recovery mode. If it's, high, is like you're feeling good. What the hell? Unless you got something serious going on, get your ass to the gym type of thing. So that whole idea of having a 360 view of you and being able to have your agent that you own that's acting on your behalf, that's the central value proposition. But the big problem with all of this is, and this is the dichotomy of it all, is that the more personalization that you have, the more you give up your identity and you give it up to be monetized against you. You give it up to be manipulated, right? And so all the big guys, Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, everybody maintains these, literally it's a vector. It's a row of numbers that represents your preferences. And when it's Netflix, I don't mind. I mean, so what? They know about my preferences. I don't really mind. But what's happening now is that the world of AI and AI agents is ramping up at such a rapid pace that maintaining control over our identities and maintaining, maintaining that central sort of element of ourselves, that's seriously under threat going forward. Now, so going back to this dichotomy, this problem is personalized but give up data. Well, that's where blockchain has just an absolutely excellent solution, because over the last few years, what DeFi has done so well, by the way, shout out to renegade.fi. Love those guys because they have done some amazing things there. What DeFi has done and what crypto in general has done is to show us that we can build distributed systems, that we can do it when they're computationally intense, that we can protect the data through encryption and shard it for distribution, for safe distribution. And then we can conduct privatized computation, which is a really important thing, right? So through MPC, through homomorphic encryption, all of these things. So you put that all together, and what we see is that we now have the technology to build this in a decentralized way that is locked down, completely locked down. And one of the great things about centering it around identity is that when it comes time to, let's say, like in our case, it remains solely on your phone and then encrypted on the blockchain. You lose your phone or it's stolen or whatever, you have to recover that. Well, you can do Shamir secret sharding, and then with each single step in there, you can do an identity challenge to retrieve it back. You know, check, do they look like that person? Do they sound like that person? Do they know some facts about that person? You know, do they do a social check? Here are some people in your network that are also using it. Can they verify the way WeChat verifies? So there's a real ability to leverage blockchain and build something amazing that is, in the end, humanity's identity chain, right? And the idea there is now you have you control you, and I can bring it to a Web3 app for personalization. But when I leave, that's it. It's coming with me. You know, sayonara. That's the key concept there.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, Andre, but the only thing I want to find out is, from an individual point of view, it makes a lot of sense. There are a couple of dangers I do envision as well, because one of the things that you mentioned was, let's say you take a photograph of whatever things you've eaten. The AI agent or the artificial intelligence future, does it get to decide what I'm going to be eating next, or do I still have a choice?
Never.
Could it be possible? Let's say if the AI takes over and they would tell me, hey, you know what, there's too much of sugar in you. I don't want you to go out and have any ice creams. Right? I want vegetables, which might be good for me, but this is something which I would not like. And that is one of the dangers of AI. And I remember the guy who actually created Alexa. He was the one who was saying he was the one who was saying that if you actually program artificial intelligence to say, make the world a safe place, it could actually go out and kill all the unhappy and people who are trying to harm as well. So it's so critical that we are in control of what we are.
So AI safety is a real thing. Yeah. But keep in mind, this is, it's certainly, it's acting solely on your behalf, and it's sort of its core mission to do so. It wouldn't have any control. I mean, maybe there's some robotic future where this could happen, but it normally would not have any control to put it into your mouth. Like it wouldn't force you to do that.
Yeah.
And it's always under your control. So one of the key tenets of this, that it doesn't take any action other than to collect without your express agreements.
Okay.
Right. So it's not going to go and order from Amazon food for you and cancel your other order.
Yeah, exactly.
I ordered Pop-Tarts and I really wanted them. But it's like, no Pop-Tarts. None.
Yeah.
You're out. I got you some celery, buddy.
Yeah. What about for businesses? I mean, how can businesses capitalize or try to manipulate what you're trying to use and use it for their own benefit so that they can offer?
Well, I think in this, identity identity is a core concept, right? So just like, you touched on two things, right? First of all, let's talk about you as a member of a business, and then we'll talk about a business client facing, right? So, one of the key aspects of this thing is because it's a knowledge tree, it allows you to segment out what we call sub-identity. So there's your super identity, everything that makes you up, right? But there's, for me, there's me, the guy trying to make this business happen. There's me, the guy trying to get into better health. And they're related. They're very separate, sub-identities of me. There's me with my wife. There's, me with my buddies, and they're very different entities. But there's also me, the work me, right? So the ability for you to build up and maintain sub-identities is built in at the core, right? And so that could be things like anything to do with work sort of falls under that. And even more interestingly is you can build sub-identities that are sort of sub-identities of your work identity. So me versus this client, me involved in this podcast, right? Yeah. So So there's a lot of potential there to manage that all in a very meaningful way. Now let's talk about the company version of this, right? So there's two things about that. I think any company that is client facing, that isn't just B2B, or maybe even if B2B, right? How everything is moving towards more and more personalization. Like, people appreciate personalization, and personalization is efficient, right? If I get in there, whatever it is, I don't want people pitching me about stuff that they should know I'm not interested in. I want people to remember whatever it is that's going on. You know how it is when you've been dealing with one person. I got a ADCB. These guys kill it on customer service. I'm going to call it. And, I find that the guy who services me is such a great job because it is so personalized. God forbid though, if he leaves, right? And so for businesses, that ability to really personalize the service, with not dehumanize it, but, in fact, go the opposite direction, right? Make it more intimate through assistance, AI assistance is something that they should all be leveraging.
Well, a question which I wanted to ask, Henry, and this is more regarding blockchain technology. Now, I really like what you said in terms of, the future of that. But blockchain technology, at least for now, we are still facing the whole blockchain trilemma problem, which is, let's say, we have this security dilemma, we have a couple of breaches, you have privacy, and the biggest issue I do think is the scalability issue, because I think when you talk about AI merging with blockchain, it is the scalability issue that needs to be handled with. Because just earlier today we talked about Town blockchain. They were shut down rather on 2 occasions in the last 24 hours. But when you talk about AI merging with blockchain, at least for now, and I'm talking about at least for the next maybe 3 to 5 years down the line, do you think it would be better to build it on a centralized system, but let's say make the source code completely open so people can go ahead and validate what we're doing is legally right and they are not breaching the individual right? What is your thoughts on that, as opposed to doing it on blockchain now?
Yeah. So you're addressing the computational issues, right? The computational demand.
Yeah.
So a few things to know. First of all, while AI models are getting bigger and they are consuming huge amounts of electricity to train, and that's the key thing to understand here, they're also growing much, much more efficient. So the ability to put powerful but small models on your phone has already arrived. Yeah. Right. And, there's a great package I love out there, LLM Router. What LLM Router does is to make a decision, and you can get a small enough model to fit on your phone. What it makes is a decision: can I do this task locally? Is the inference not that demanding, or do I need to hand it out to a bigger model? So I would say that, computation, much, much more computation, and the trend is just absolutely heading in that direction. Smaller models, more powerful phones means much more distributed inference. And I want to make a difference between training and inference. And I know you, Markose, you're going to understand that, because training, large-scale training of big models is massively demanding, but small-scale inference is not. And that's the whole trend, right? Is make the models smaller, but don't lose any of the power, and make inference quicker by making targeted smaller models. It's kind of close to the Unix idea, a little much more compartmentalized. So that's part of the problem there. And then the rest of it comes down to, I think, the decentralized design, right? So, when you have nodes, you can build an AI stack within that node. It may be more demanding, but compared to Bitcoin mining, which is massively computationally, demanding, actually AI inference is a small factor of that. And I stress that's inference, not training. Right. So I think it's, I won't say it's not an issue. It is an issue. But all of the trends are going in the direction where this gets solved.
Yep. Definitely do feel that. Now, from a regulatory point of view, Andre, what do you think are, let's say, the challenges particularly in UAE. I mean, I personally like UAE, and you both said, but what do you envision the regulatory challenges that could potentially arise because of this?
I love this question. I sometimes get woken up in the middle of the night about this. Well, actually, I get woken up by my 2.5-year-old son, but I end up thinking about this. I've been in the crypto industry since 2016, and regulations and regulatory groups have always been front and center. So can I show you some scars I've got back here from the various, seriously. Whoa. So, it's going to matter, and it's not going to be easy. But the one thing is that all of us who have been in crypto for a while are, we're all battle hardened and ready to go through this, right? So I talked about the health thing, right? So I found out a few days ago, actually at Tech Tuesday, call out again to you guys, that the DHA will likely, that's the Dubai Health Authority, will likely require me to apply for a license to collect and maintain health data on the part of UAE citizens, right? Incidentally, that's $75K apparently, right? And you have to apply for it, right? And of course, there's the bigger ones, there's the GDPR, etc. You're going to have to be compliant. And don't get me wrong, this is not going to be easy, but you can build it in a way. And in our case, in the core tenets that we've been thinking about here is, first of all, everything on device, as much as possible. All the data sits on device, does not sit, if it's an iPhone, for example, the private keys, etc., do not sit on the cloud, because that gives people the opportunity to take over your Apple ID and get everything. So it does not deliberately sit there. And it's all backed up on chain. But the backups are such that, well, I can go through the whole security model. It'd be a bit long, but it's fairly intense. But again, the idea here is it's all under your control. We don't want any of it. We want to, as much as possible, endeavor to be a software provider and to avoid the regulatory issues through that. I will say, despite that, a very big portion of my life for the next few years is going to be filling out regulatory forms and applying. It's the only way to do it legally and get over the hurdles. And what I hope is that a whole lot of lobbying, just like we've done for crypto, is going to make this happen.
Yeah. And one thing, Andrew, which you mentioned earlier, this was during the introduction. I was listening to an episode by Joe Rogan. He was talking about, artificial intelligence merging with quantum computing. If that thing happens, do you think that the graph will just be in one way direction? Because you're touching base about the graph that it is just picking up pace. Could it be possible that we might have a graph that is just non-stop moving just in the upward direction?
Sorry, you dropped out a little bit. Could I have a what?
Let's say the graph of improving, as you mentioned, that you're using AI to go and improve on the other AI's work with quantum computing merging with artificial intelligence. Do you think that the graph that we are looking at regarding, the improvement, it just is non-stop keeping on moving in the upward direction?
Yeah. I mean, we're in uncharted waters here. Absolutely. The level at which, as I mentioned before, is it's learning. We're learning, but maybe the term "it's learning" is also important. When we combine that with quantitative computing, we have the potential for absolutely explosive growth. So whatever we do there, I do hope, I don't like going through all the regulatory hurdles, but they exist because there's a trade-off between the individual and the common good. And in this case, the common good is like let's not eliminate humanity. It's a pretty heavy mandate, right? So quantum computing, I think we have to be extremely careful. I'm not really a quantum computing guy, but I have read a bit about it, and I think we have to be extremely careful about what we do.
And I'm not sure, Andrew, if you watched this movie called as Her, which is a Hollywood movie. Yeah, so I do envision, maybe not now in a decade's time, it could be possible that, we do give out our data voluntarily to an AI agent. Could it be possible that we may fall in love with that AI agent like it is in the movie? It is possible in the crazy world. It is kind of possible, isn't it? At least based off that movie.
So it's a lot sooner than most people think. I don't know if you follow the latest robots. Some of them are nothing short of astounding in what they can do, the level of movement. There's the big guys who've been around for a while, like Boston Dynamics. But certainly there are all other sorts of robotic companies appearing. And, within 5 years here in the UAE, I think that robots will be very common in many areas. The only thing, we could see this in 2 years, except that the regulatory and safety hurdles will prevent that, right? So it's not the technology, it's humanity getting used to it and being around it. But definitely within, 2 to 5 years, we're going to see an explosion. And in 10 years, easily, robots will become commonplace. My son will grow up in a world where he just assumes robots have been part of it forever. On your question of love, I think, it's, as I said, it's sooner than you think. You guys may have heard of Character AI. Character AI is, it's a chat that imitates certain people. I can imitate Elon Musk or, I don't know, Matt Damon, or I don't know who they've got on there. Various anime characters, etc. And apparently there are some people, particularly teenagers, who are almost, bordering on a kind of love relationship with this. For me, honestly, it's a bit sad, because I think it's people want that because of something that has happened to them, some way that they've grown up, right? They don't have the ability to engage in authentic biological intimacy, even if that's just hanging out at a coffee shop talking. They feel more comfortable talking with an AI, right? And so that, I understand that. There are times where, you want to get something off your chest, you want to share something, you want some feedback, but actually you want it to remain totally private. In the past, we just turned to our best friend, our buddy, or whatever it may be, sometimes a therapist. It does worry me, and I do see it happening. Definitely see that people, just like anything, right? We can become very addicted to it. Even right now, use of various forms of AI in that way is already becoming addictive. Not TikTok addictive, thankfully, but
yes, they're pretty close there, I guess.
I think it really, at the moment, because it is such a limited set of functionality, that it's a limited set of people who are susceptible to this, right? If you've got real biological friends, and when I say real, like, you can be yourself around them, and you are able to interact with them, I don't think it's an issue. But absolutely. I think it is a possible future. The thing is that, if you look at most technological advancements, they often come with their reaction. So right now we're seeing a lot around Gen AI and how incredibly realistic Gen IA is getting. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the most recent stuff, but whoa, like these open source models, they are so good that unless you look very, very closely, the one that's been circulating a lot is a woman at some sort of award ceremony, a red carpet thing, and she's holding a mic. And you'd swear that was a real photo, except if you look just down here, there's some weird folds of skin, going on. And that's about it, Other than that, it looks, and then when people have animated it, it looks just like so real. So that is just absolutely going to take off. But what that is going to cause is the desire for more authenticity, to know that you are speaking with another human being, to know that you are chatting with another human being. I was joking around with a friend, we should
like a proof of humanity.
That's our term, right? Proof of humanity is exactly one of the core characteristics that we're building in from the beginning, the ability to, and by the way, this is a pretty elaborate way of doing things, right? You take a shot of yourself with the in-app camera and your ID, but then, what we have you do is someone else takes a video of you taking a video, right? So it's got to be another human being on the app, and they film you doing that, and they kind of move around you, and they get little commands like move left, move right, etc. to avoid the possibility of a deep fake, right? All that just so you can prove. Yeah, so there's a deep proof of humanity thing. And it's not about the ID or knowing, what your name is, your birth date. It's about demonstrating you're a real human being. Because, there isn't much demand for that right now, but I think in the coming years it's going to be big, and more people are going to want genuine contact. So going back to this joking app, I was saying we should create a really simple app. Won't allow you to do cut and paste, and only allows you to take photos through the app with the camera. So there's no filtering, there's nothing. All you can do is type into it and leave voice messages. And if you even added in a little bit of AI to try to take a photo of a photo, it would say, this is not an actual moving being. But I think there might be some demand for that. Just like I know I'm dealing with another real biological being,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's definitely always going to be a reaction to these technologies. And for a portion of the population, you're already seeing it now, right? They just want more humanity.
And I'm not sure, Andre and Markose, if you guys watch Black Mirror, because there's an episode called Smithereens, which,
I'm guilty of binging.
Yeah.
Not recently,
and there's another one called
busy, but...
Yeah, there's another one called Nosedive, that talks about the impact of social media. And some of them, the Smithereens one is what the CEO, and they're kind of resembling Jack Dorsey in that. What he does is every month he just leaves the entire company away and he just goes to the mountain hill just to get away from social media. And there's something earlier on I was telling Markose as well. Friday, Saturday, Sundays I don't work. I'm completely out of cryptocurrency and blockchain because you want to get connected to what is happening in the real world, isn't it? So that is absolutely.
I'm right with you, brother. Absolutely on that one. As Mark Zuckerberg said recently, so he was talking about the evolution of Facebook and Instagram. He said when they both started, they were originally user-generated content. So friends posting things with friends, and almost all of it was that. And over, the past 5-10 years, it has moved dramatically to be almost all professional content creators. You look at your feed, right? You're like, oh, there's my friend.
Yeah.
You finally found somebody and everything else just is somebody feeding you something that you don't know, or they've got something to sell you or something to promote or whatever. And he thinks that most of that is going to migrate to AI generated content. And can you imagine that? Like, this is a real scenario right now. It's happening all the time. But there was a funny spoof on this where somebody sends out an interview and this guy gets on and she asked just beforehand ChatGPT to give her 10 good questions to ask. And she throws them over to him and he secretly throws them into ChatGPT and gets 10 good responses. And then she gets 10 good, follow-up questions. And, he gets 10 good answers to those, right? It's just AI going back and forth with AI. And of course, I don't know if that's really realistic in work interview, but, certainly, how many times have you prepared a document using some form of AI and then somebody else takes this document and throws it into AI and summarizes it into a few sentences, like, boom, 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 boom. And you done it all in like Slack.
You wouldn't believe this has actually happened to me because I've used AI to create a list of questions. I use it more for spell check and grammar, and I gave it to the person who I was interviewing for my regular podcast. That person literally put it into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to come up with the answers. So when I was asking the question, this person shut off the camera, and I was like, why is this person shutting off the camera? And apparently he had printed it, and he was just reading it off the script. And after the interview, we discussed, and that's exactly what he tried to do.
Yeah.
Wow. What the heck?
Authentic is where the game is, A friend of mine works for Google and he was working on the speech, like the realistic, I think it's a duo or something like that. Anyway, it's a project that can, it phones up small businesses and asks them questions like, hey, hi, I'm phoning from Google. I just want to ensure are your, opening and closing hours X and X, right? It's all about improving their localization. And he said it didn't score that well in the Turing test until they added in ums and ahs and, little laughs and things like this. So, it was all about fooling the user by adding what we normally think of as, kind of less develop speech patterns, right? Little stutters and things like this. So making it more human making it slightly more error-free.
Yeah, realistic as well.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think do we have moved to the next bit of the session for right now, which is regarding OpenSea and the big drama with SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. Did you guys manage to catch that news? Because this was a massive news, and a lot of people, even from the political space, they were retweeting it. And I have a completely different stance regarding that. So what happened is that the OpenSea CEO, he received a Wells notice that the SEC will be going after them. So usually what happens is, rather than filing the lawsuit against or going after the company, they serve a Wells notice. And I found out that what the CEO actually tweeted was a bit.
Can you just help me get up to speed? What is exactly the charge? What are they going after him for?
So they are going after OpenSea, stating that they have sold a couple of NFTs as securities. So a lot of people are actually supporting OpenSea, which kind of may not be right. So what did actually happen, let me go back, is that the CEO actually tweeted.
They're failing the Howey test.
Correct, yeah.
Basically, that's what it is, really, yeah.
So I wanted to just touch base on the Howey test, because before that, the moment he tweeted, I was actually hoping that, in the tweet, he's not asking people to contribute so that they can fight back against the SEC. And unfortunately, that is exactly what he was doing. So I'd recommend, listeners to go ahead and see the actual tweet, because he has actually tagged two artists. And what he's actually mentioned is that the SEC is against NFTs, which according to me is not true. These SECs are after centralized entities. Exactly, yeah, because the SEC is after centralized entity, let's say like OpenSea or even the artist. Because what they are doing is they are selling the NFT artwork as a security, which, whether we agree to it or not, is kind of like breaking the laws in it. And regarding the Howey test,
how did they arrive at that conclusion? So, selling NFTs like selling any other art. Ironically, I'm sitting right across from an art gallery that sells NFTs as well.
How it actually works is, let's say, and this is what has happened as well. Let's say, for instance, if the CEO of OpenSea does actually go on Twitter Spaces, and let's say if he accidentally says, or even if he gives an intention that, let's say for Markose's artwork, if you were to buy the NFT now, you could double your money, or let's say triple your money. This is a simple statement like that. Or even if you give the indication.
Yeah, that one's financial advice, right?
Exactly.
That's where they're breaking it.
You still do the financial advice, but then you need to go ahead and register that particular product as a security.
Right, exactly.
And if you were to do that, then it's fine. But because we are talking about NFTs, so the correct terminology would be that the SEC is going after OpenSea, not necessarily NFTs. That is what my opinion is. And when I saw that tweet, as I mentioned, I was hoping that he's not asking the people to go back and asking for funds, and that's exactly what he was doing. And, unfortunately.
So when you say asking for funds, he was asking people to contribute to like a legal defense fund as a result of this SEC?
That is what would usually follow up. So if you see in the next couple of days, not him, but someone else associated to OpenSea will say, hey, we are starting up a fund. Let's go ahead and build it and fight back against the SEC. That is what historically happens so far as SEC is concerned.
Yeah, and that's not illegal, right? That's contributions to some sort of charitable cause, right? Yeah.
Correct, yeah. That is perfectly legal and fine. So, and regarding the Howey test, there are basic 4 questions I think everyone knows. The first one is the transaction and investment of money? Is there a common enterprise? Is there an expectation of profit? And are the profits derived from the efforts of others? So it could be things like,
it's the last one in particular.
Yeah. Or even if a Twitter space, or let's say even on a podcast, if someone accidentally says that, let's say if you buy this NFT, the prices will pump up. There you go. It's the end of story. The Security and Exchange Commission will go after you. And it might take some time. It might happen, let's say now, after a few months and after a few years. Markose and us, we discussed about Ripple's case. People are celebrating that it is Ripple's case. Not necessarily true.
Before we move on, just that point, I think the key thing, like I get asked all the time on podcasts, what's my target for Bitcoin over the next 2 to 5 years, right? Yeah. And that's me saying what I think Bitcoin will reach. But I think the key differentiator between that is I'm not the one offering Bitcoin. Right? I'm not
Exactly.
offering Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just out there, and I'm giving my opinion on it. Whereas in this case, I think the key differentiator is he's providing the NFT.
Yeah. They were the marketplace. So even let's say if I'm an NFT artist, if I give the impression that by buying this, you will financially benefit, which you can still do it, but you need to go ahead and register it as a security, and then it's perfectly fine. But this is kind of like, and there is a very thin way as to what kind of impression that you give. But people are upset that the SEC is going after NFTs. That is not the case. People are actually going after OpenSea. And what our listeners should do is, you should actually go to SEC's Twitter account and read through the companies that they're actually going after. It is not only cryptocurrencies, they're going after investment companies left and right, probably more than 10 tweets per day. So, that is something which people, at least from the cryptocurrency world, should be aware about. And we've talked about this, Andre, that SEC Chair Gary Gensler, he's a massive advocate of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. He was a professor at MIT educating people on blockchain technology. So he knows the ins and outs. And even when he talked about staking as a service regarding Coinbase, he put out a video clearly explaining that he's not against staking as a service, but he's against centralized entities, let's say specifically Coinbase, because what Coinbase does is they say, why don't you do your staking as a service with us? You will get the return, and then Coinbase kind of promises that you will get an additional interest as well. That is the part which SEC does not like. Speaking it from a pure cryptocurrency blockchain point of view, I think it's pretty black and white. What they're doing is absolutely spot on and correct. People will actually
and a lot of people forget.
Yeah,
a lot of people forget. You get these knee-jerk reactions like the one you just had. You outlined about they're against NFTs. Crypto is scam city, right? We can't all forget that, right? There's a immense amount of great stuff out there, but the scams come in all sorts of other forms. And it's unfortunate because, I personally know people who have gotten involved in it in a very cursory way and just went in the wrong door and now hate crypto because they got ripped off, right? They didn't know what they were doing. Some friend introduced them to some sleazy project and they got rug pulled or they got ripped off, right? So, who's going to prevent these things? Who's going to go after these guys, right? We've got to have some regulatory body in there that does that. And really, it's all about very smart policies that take down the bad actors while allowing the good actors to innovate. Right? So I think you're spot on there that people really need to understand exactly what they're going after, right? And promising that something will return, some return. I mean, professionals in the finance industry never do that, right? When you're a hedge fund manager, do not ever say, I'm going to return this much to you. Even when you're talking about a fixed return, you have to say, hey, I'm putting you into, this bond, its coupon is worth this amount. We think it's pretty likely this is going to return that amount, but you're not telling them that for sure because, all sorts of things can happen even with bonds, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, and people just don't have the time or the inclination to educate themselves. So sometimes you need to step in. And I just hope that they start from the worst actors and work down.
True.
There have been some things like Ethereum. Come on, guys.
The only thing I can say is regarding, the SEC, the only big problem, especially in the United States of America, is that should it be the SEC who should be regulating cryptocurrency blockchain, or should it be the CFTC? Because based on
should it be a new body?
That would be even better. But based on my understanding, SEC does not have authority in calling it, let's say, a security or not. It should ideally be the CFTC, and that is when it was Bitcoin was not a security. That was actually tear-downed by the head of CFTC. So, it's weird. So, and that's where the US election comes into play. So let's see what happens in the US election. Then
I think, the definition. It's this classic case. Any new technology appears and we kind of cast it within an old framework. Movies, first thing they do was to film the stage, right? Until they realized they could move the camera, right? So in a similar way, crypto, I think, is crypto, even that definition, is crypto a commodity? Well, yeah, certainly Bitcoin comes close to one, to digital gold, certainly close. But once you get into everything programmatic, is it an OS? Well, kind of. It's an OS. Is it a loyalty point system? Well, kind of. And and you can just keep going on and on. So my feeling is the U.S. in particular has an issue with too many powerful regulatory bodies. Everyone wants to have their say, but no one takes full ownership. And it's the saying
typical bureaucrats.
Yeah, well, I mean, success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Well, everybody's like, whoa, we don't know. Should we get involved in this? Should we be absolutely involved in this? I think ultimately they need a specialized regulatory body because crypto is that unique.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. The only thing I wanted to finally touch base on is regarding, what did actually happen in the cryptocurrency world, and this is more to do with the prices. We touched base earlier on, Andre, before you heard that the prices did actually bump up on the 23rd of August, to be precise, and that is because Federal Chair Jerome Powell did actually state that he'll be reducing the interest rate, and the official announcement will actually happen on the 18th of September. So I do envision, a few days before that, there's going to be a lot of market volatility. Notorious traders will try to manipulate it. But then we had the arrest of the CEO of Telegram, and that was one of the reasons why the prices did come down. That was
a big one. Another knee-jerk reaction there. It's a very nuanced discussion around that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Pemmelaar and Telegram. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack about that. Is interesting. There was a post. I'm sorry, I'm going to just go briefly into Telegram. I know you guys probably chatted it to death over the last week or two. One interesting take was, do more and more CEOs need to start thinking about building out decentralized systems to avoid these things? When it's going back to your point, 100% decentralized means that nobody controls it.
True. Absolutely no control.
Yeah, it's a huge. Yeah, but that was definitely a big effect on it.
Yeah.
I noticed some people mentioned that there was the initial backlash about liberty and all this kind of stuff, and then some people mentioning, well, Pavel isn't the cleanest guy. There's a lot of rumors, some apparently well substantiated. I don't know enough about it to really comment whether they were true or not, but about Telegram opening itself up to Russian authorities so that they could watch carefully what was happening there. Is that true? I don't really know, but if it is, it's sort of a very imbalanced way, right, to say that you're building out an open platform that gives everybody a chance, but then allows backdoors for certain entities. We'll see how it all plays out. I think in the end, it may be less of an important news than the interest rates.
Yep. So it's going to be, I think the official announcement should be done on the 18th of this month. And it's 99.99% or more or less 100% chance that he will actually go and reduce the interest rate, not just for September, but for the end of this quarter as well. Now, there were also news regarding a lot of liquidation simultaneously happening while the prices were going down. Now, in Twitter, there's an account called as Watcher Guru. They often provide information in terms of, how much of funds are being liquidated, but they usually don't provide the public address. So, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, but we can clearly tell that, if you actually go to cryptocurrency exchanges and look at the purchase order, that, a lot of people are actually liquidating. A lot of people who are going long are probably getting completely belly up in financial losses. But other than that, the only final thing, I wanted to touch base is
you just got to keep looking for a maximum pain point. Like the best entries are always when everybody goes, crap.
Exactly,
it's going down more. When everybody's absolutely sure it's going down, you just need consensus and then everyone's wrong.
Yeah, and that's whenever there is blood in the market, that's the best time to get into it, isn't it? I think that's what Warren Buffett is.
Depends how long there's been blood. We've been through cases where
Baron
you're catching a falling knife, and you caught it a bit too early, right? Is it a knife attached to a bungee cord, or is it actually to keep going down?
Now, regarding decentralized exchange, I tend to look at the top 5 decentralized exchange for some bizarre reason just this week, and this might be the very first time in at least 3 years. There were 3 new entrants. It is a bit strange that the 3 new entrants happened only this week. One is a decentralized exchange called Sun, Velodrome, and Meteora. Now, I can only assume that they all 3 have launched, and that's one of the reasons why they were in the top 5. Other than that, if you look at the volumes after they were in the top 5, it has drastically gone down, but a bit of a strange anomaly that, so far.
Interesting. Any idea what chain they're on? Like say, for example, Radiance or Solana.
We have to check on DeFi Llama. You can probably check it on DeFi Llama. Yeah, so it gives you detailed information.
DeFi really, just, this is DBX, right? We're very focused in the region. When I was studying stablecoins, one of the most interesting things I learned is that while overall DeFi usage is low, about 60% of the crypto population here in UAE makes extensive use of DeFi. Apparently, like a major in the UAE DeFi user. So I think sometimes we, especially people working in the industry, we kind of forget just how hard this is for most people to use.
Yeah, and this goes back to the user experience.
Yeah, you guys were talking about it earlier, right?
Yeah. And hopefully, Sky.money turns out to be a killer app, because MakerDAO is the project that actually kickstarted the whole DeFi movement, but it is also called as BoomerDAO.
Yeah.
We'll see. I thought your point there on, in terms of usage was interesting. Perhaps that's because they have an app, and an app requires terms of usage because it sits on an iPhone or an Android. And then there's the protocol. Generally speaking, if you think it through, you probably should have 2 entities that do very different things there, or not even one for the decentralized.
Yeah, the only problem I have with DeFi is, let's say customer service. Who handles the customer service? And I think we've touched base on one project, which I think was 100% decentralized or distributed, and clearly say it was, that is Open Bazaar. And this was done by
Amir Taki.
Yeah, who is the guy who actually started Bitcoin Improvement Proposal. He was the first guy who actually started it. But Open Bazaar is 100% decentralized or distributed. He got it up and running in 7 hours. He did it as part of a competition. When it launched, I thought this could be the end of Amazon, eBay,
I thought too.
But the problem is there is no customer service, so people started to return the things, and they started to do chargebacks. There is no chargebacks, so you have to go ahead and introduce
5 years from now, are we going to be talking about autonomous AI system providing a customer support layer?
That would be a game changer. That would be a game changer.
Yeah.
I think right now, if we can connect it to the world of decentralized finance, I think that there you go. You've got a solution. So let's say Sky.money during the launch offers a customer service experience, which the co-founder did actually mention via a video which he put out on Twitter, that they are focusing on customer service experience. But if it is done with an autonomous AI agent, if it is distributed, I think that'll be a game changer, and that is the kind of ChatGPT moment which the DeFi world desperately needs.
I think the biggest problem that you have with DeFi compared to centralized exchanges, and I've been involved in both extensively in centralized, and is even if you do have a customer service agent, you're kind of screwed. If something went wrong, you're done, right? The transaction is final. You can't really roll it back. If you made a mistake, sometimes there are some things where they can retrieve it. But for the most part, unless you introduce some intermediary. So I think if you have Open Bazaar, if you have an intermediary holder while the funds are being delivered, a kind of escrow agent, a decentralized escrow agent. You're waiting for the funds to arrive, but you've paid them. They're sitting there on chain, not released to the vendor yet because you haven't confirmed. Then there's an opportunity for you to roll that back. But other than that, I think most of what customer support at the moment could do is to help you start to use it, maybe to make the user experience easier to explain to you what's going on. Right?
And is that something that the foundation does? So I think it should be something which the foundation should go ahead and manage, which is completely different to, let's say, who manages the protocol. That's where I believe the foundation or association kicks in. But yeah, I think definitely.
Let me tell you, I think the whole idea, just going back to AI and blockchain, there was this kind of, there was a big run up of AI related coins in the sort of end of Q1, beginning of Q2. And people look at that, it's come down, they think it doesn't really, maybe it was just, kind of a trend for a while. But I think that the power of the two combined is going to be nothing short of miraculous. Like, I'm not talking about that for what I'm doing. I'm just talking about in general, right? Markose, you're involved with Fort, right? So, what they're doing, providing centralized computation. There are a whole bunch of people out there providing different little aspects of the whole chain. We're in the first inning, as the saying goes, right? Like, we haven't got to that point where we've got really robust systems where we filled in all the holes and everybody can start to build on top of it. But we're building towards it. It's happening, and there are funds out there to dedicate to that vision. And I think that is, a really exciting thing to build. Right? So a whole area there, just what can we build that's autonomous? This is a big DAO thing. Remember decentralized autonomous organizations? I remember the very first time I read about that, the use case was you have a robotic taxi service, and it optimizes for maximum use of the taxi, and so it's always trying to figure out where can I get the lowest gas, or where that would be all electricity, but that's a real future that could really emerge, right? Where you have all these decentralized services whose motive is not profit. They have to remain, almost profitable, but their goal is to service as many transports as possible.
I think there was a project called IOTA. They were trying to bank on that, which I do believe does not use blockchain, isn't it? They use direct basic graph, if I'm not mistaken. They were banking on something similar.
Where I see this? It just reminded me. There's this card game that came out in the early 2000s, and it was it was called .com Bust, and it had all these silly ideas from the turn of the century around 2000, just before everything bust, and it was all like the ideas. I never played it, but I heard about it. Interesting. You take this deck of cards, and 5 years later, these are all the startups that are killing it. So what was the problem? Timing, right?
Yep.
So I think all these ideas that got tested out a few years ago, they're going to come back. And yeah, it's kind of like Instagram until the cameras were ready, until broadband, until you had smartphones, things like that couldn't really exist. We're getting there. And in the next few years, you're going to see one more, another cycle come back where these things will be now technically feasible. And will be in place to the point where you can really scale them up.
Yep. I think, we've covered pretty much everything, Markose, isn't it? Do you have anything else to add?
No. I think just to talk about like what happened in the crypto markets regarding you saw some of the liquidation and stuff, especially from Watcher Guru. So now I was just like going through my Twitter feed. So there's been like massive withdrawal of Bitcoin coming out of Binance because of particularly in the MENA region, because of Binance I guess agreed to either the IDF or I guess one of the financial authority in Israel regarding some of the funds. So there's been a lot of a lot of cultural clash, especially on Twitter and stuff. And if you follow Martin Nafal's his X Spaces, so there's been quite a lot. It's almost like $20 billion. So that's a lot. So I mean, it's still going on. So we'll see how that goes. So yes, I think either 20 billion or hold on,
That's a hell of
maybe
a lot.
2 billion. Yeah. So, I think it's 2 billion. Let me see.
It's got to be 2 billion, I think.
Maybe 2 billion for now, but it's still going on. So, I mean, obviously it is quite contentious. It's a lot of stuff. So yeah, so that's also that is creating a lot of a lot of major shifts. Already we've seen that with Powell's arrest. Then we got then on the other side we got with the SEC, and it's interesting. There's a lot going on, but then again also interesting the timing. Usually, August and September. Usually we see like the drop. If you look at all the years, usually at this particular time the prices do go down. So like since 2013. So it's interesting. So, but yeah. Anyways, hey, there's just another day in Cryptolandia, crypto universe.
Yes.
So,
indeed.
Maybe if I know for the new people, I know some of them are quite stressed out because like I'm on these these chat groups, and a lot of them are complaining, oh, this particular token is going down and stuff. But after but we have to remind them, like, everyone's is like 40% down on an average. So it's something like to get used to. I know for new people it's not.
Blood in the streets.
Yeah. So
blood in the streets. Welcome to crypto if you're new. It's a savage but profitable world.
Well, welcome to your crypto initiation. So that's but yeah, that's the only thing I got to share. So,
but again, Andre, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure people would love.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was actually, you know what? It was a lot of fun. This was a fun discussion. I love you guys. When I get a chance, I pop in the mornings. I often have meetings and stuff, but I love just listening to it. It's a nice sort of casual one. It brings me up to speed on things I've missed.
Yep.
Great stuff.
Thanks for that. Yeah. And if you do have any feedback, or even if our listeners have any feedback, always can mention it to Markose or to me. Or
by the way, you can reach out to me, guys, if you're at all interested on LinkedIn. Anyone who's interested in what I'm doing.
Perfect. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and mention your LinkedIn ID on. We'll go ahead and post the LinkedIn ID on the show as well. And what I'll do is I'll publish this standalone episode. I'll go ahead and mention all the details for you as well as for Agentic AI Labs as well. Thank you so much for doing this, guys.
No, sure. Definitely, I'll definitely tag you on LinkedIn, and if you have any interesting links for the audience to learn more about you, and also you want to share some stuff, some research papers and stuff. Hey, post on the comment section.
Yeah. Thank you. It's actually great news. As I say, we're building it out for humanity. We might want to involve, some input from the rest of humanity.
Yep.
So the privacy model, stuff like that, I sent something to you, George, earlier, just describing it. But always love a lot of eyes on that.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But George, any, before we close this thing down, any updates on Blockchain DXB, new episodes, new guests coming in?
Just
teasers,
going
I
for
guess.
a teeny tiny vacation as usual after my work, which is almost done. So technically, I have 4 days off in a week. But
nice. I love it. That's cool. That's
work hard for 4 days, take 3 off.
Yeah.
I think you should take 4 off. Wow.
I know.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, technically.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Drop, guys.
Cool.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye. Yeah. But yeah, so that's about it, folks. Anyway, so speaking about updates, so this will share from my end. With coming from the ORD Foundation, we are planning to have a great partnership with a cybersecurity company called Data Secure. So we will definitely organize some some meetups here in Sunnyside, Dubai. So we're going to have some workshops and networking services. And definitely, I'll tell you what, we're going to do it. My goal is to have it on a Friday. So the reason is that mainly because I want to have George attend this networking session, and maybe we could do sort of like a live stream covering some hot topics and the current scenario in the crypto space. So whether in crypto and especially AI. So and hey, and also Josh can get some free coffee too, right? So definitely. So this is definitely, and the best part is we're going to have it at the In5 studio, I guess you call it. I just call it In5 Studio at Dubai Media City. So it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy to, come by metro, catch the bus. It's actually not that complicated. And also it's easy to catch a cab too. So regardless, you can easily reach there. It's a great location. And after that, hey, you get to socialize at some of the hottest spots in Dubai, whether it's Dubai Marina or, near Jumeirah. So that's it. So we already planned this out. We thought this out, such a 360 holistic way. So that way you guys get to connect with some of the top people and some of the most interesting people in the space by now. So that being said, so that's the best update I have for you, so far from the org. And in collaboration with Society X, we'll also have, some upcoming partnerships with some events here in Dubai. So, can't mention it yet till we, make it official, all that, marketing jazz. But yes, that's the update, George. So definitely would love to have you to grace your presence at our space and also share your knowledge too. So, yeah.
100%.
So yeah.
Definitely will be there. I think we're pretty much done, Marcus, isn't it? Almost 2 hours. This was a
yes. All right. So really great stuff. I found a lot of value in terms of Andre sharing, the agents, the AI agents, because I think there's a lot. I know there's a lot to go through, but I think that's something people should be aware of. I think sooner or later people will grasp that. But that being said, we gotta go, fam. So you guys have a wonderful Thursday, a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you on the next episode. So y'all be good. Y'all be safe.